One, starting with Victoria Hall, and I'll ask Mrs. Ellsworth to take us through that, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Some of the facility repairs include window work, including wooden window frame repair, paint, that type of thing. The ability to open windows that perhaps may not open at this moment. And mainly the rose windows. They're individual pieces of stained glass set into a wood frame, and that wood frame has been deteriorating. We have done some work, but now we need to do more of a permanent fix for those. HVAC air handler 2 is just.
If I could just back you up just for a second, Mrs. Ellsworth, I just want to mention the council's reminder that those rows of windows were donated by Karen and Les Whiting years ago. Okay, thank you. Carry on.
That's right. Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This is an ongoing part of the HVAC replacement plan. Air handler number 2 is due. We are, if I'm not mistaken, and I may have to double check with Rick, I believe this is toward the end of the HVAC maintenance and repair projects. We seem to be moving along pretty well.
Yeah, through Your Worship, we did a lot of work this past year. I'm not sure if there's 3 or 4. It's called a distributed system. There's 3 or 4 places throughout the building.
Yeah.
That this stuff is at. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. So 3 boilers and then these air handlers. And in that particular example, that's one of the examples where Victoria Playhouse pays their portion of that project because it does benefit both the municipal offices and municipal use and the Victoria Playhouse as well. And brick repointing and chimney repairs, that's just self-explanatory. As an old homeowner, it's constant, unfortunately. And that backflow installation is being discussed as well as it is for other facilities. And this general repair and maintenance line happens to be a line that is for unexpected situations that may arise within an old facility. Example, we have a problem with water infiltrating in the basement or something like that. This is that line where we would then expense that and then follow up with a report regarding the use of the fund.
Any questions for Mrs. Ellsworth regarding the Victoria Hall? Okay, we'll move on to the next page. Do you want to speak to that? Mr. Charlebois, will you speak to the total net capital, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the net total capital for 2024 budget plan, it's 3.4 million. It's adjusted a little bit. We made a couple of little changes, so we'll get that all adjusted. And the gross, 1.4 million. Again, adjusted a little bit. The special funding, I think that remained the same. I don't think we made any changes there. And the working capital reserve, as of the end of 2022, it had just shy of $3 million in it.
Okay.
And we want to go through the operating now?
Yeah, I think you want to do the, I'll go through the 150 next.
Sure.
Just before we do that, Councillor Welsh, do you have a question?
Just back to the capital for just 1 minute. If we weren't doing the signage for $75,000 out at the road, is it, I don't know what the total cost for the fire hall washrooms are, but would that expedite getting that done since we've already accounted for that, or?
I think Enniskillen,
something we can consider.
has Enniskillen approved that?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah,
When
I
you-
can speak to.
Okay, Councillor O'Hara, go ahead. He's on fire.
They haven't approved it yet. I don't think.
Oh,
They're,
I thought they
Hmm?
they just did.
oh, they did. Okay,
Yeah,
so
at their council level, just the
But-
fire department part.
if we were to put that 75,000 back in, then they'd have to put equal or else they're not paying their share again. They'd have to
They
pay
have no money.
40%. You understand?
Yeah, oh, no, I understand that part of it. So
So-
did it go back to them or no?
Council has a choice to put the 75,000 wherever they like. I think you just don't get confused. This is just our portion we're talking about. We're not
Yes.
talking about Enniskillen.
No, I know, but I think it's better that we put it somewhere else besides.
Okay,
elections.
yeah. Okay. All right. All right, let's move on. So I think, yeah, I think Mr. Charlebois was saying as far as 59, we've already pretty well gone through that. I think we should maybe at this time have run through our Petroleum 150. And then we'll go through the individual ones quickly from there. So Mrs. Ellsworth, would you walk us through that? I think you've all got copies.
I sure can. Thanks, Your
Okay,
Worship.
thank you. And I think just mainly highlight things that maybe if, because I know council's got it and read it, so just maybe highlight it or make it kind of short. Thank you.
Understood, Your Worship. Thank you. We're just starting, I just want to highlight the committee members and structure. I think this is one of these really key pieces of information, just to see how many members of our community are part of the project. And with our gratitude, it's made for not only a fun planning process, but I believe that it has involved a number of people with some great ideas to include as much of the community as they can. Always, it has been our intention to provide a range of activities in a variety that's affordable and engaging, and to create a legacy project, which you all know better as the band shell at this point, and a memorable birthday party. Again, just to make sure that we underpromise and overdeliver, we've been trying to do our best to communicate as clearly and concisely as possible without putting information out there that we don't have in either a certain agreements or that we don't have the work in place for. We've been really working together to make sure that each committee member both has a role and is a part of the community, but also has an event responsibility so that we're not tiring out single members of the community. We're working together. And again, we have kept in mind that this is a birthday party before anything else. It's not anything other than a big celebration for our town and our residents, and a celebration outlining the great community that Petrolia is. Lots of communications and marketing going on. You've probably noticed we've launched the website. We've launched our apparel sales and souvenir sales online. We've just placed the Christmas order, so Christmas order should be in on time. We've used social media in as many ways as possible. I'm also learning Threads, which has been challenging but interesting. So lots of social media presence. Our known events calendar is in its final draft today. We were asking for last minute changes, and it will go in the mail as soon as about probably the 5th of December by the time it's finished being printed. We have been recording some TV commercials, radio commercials. We've developed some print. We're working with Tourism Publications, our Petrolia Connection. One of the really cool things that we've discovered quickly is residents have like collections of video and audio recordings and 8mm tape and everything that they are so happy to share with the town. And so we've been able to actually digitize much of that, and we are seeing a Christmas parade from 1953, and we're seeing people just walking down the street in clothing that would appear as though it's from somewhere in the 20s or 30s. And we've experienced a lot of really cool historical stuff about Petrolia that we're ready to share with the community. You can skip that one if you want. Our major events, I know that you've all read these. We're looking forward to it, kicking off the gala on the 1st of January. We have what we would consider in the industry a variety show planned. Best way to describe it. Lots of video, lots of audio, some important people providing speeches, some musical entertainment, apps and snacks provided by Petrolia restaurants, cocktails, the whole thing. You do have to dress up a little though. And then we get into our skates and swims and things like that. Our regular town events such as Family Day, all a little bit enhanced for the 150. You keep going there. And this is all online, so I'm skipping all this stuff. We do still have a holdback announcement, and it is for the weekend of Saturday, June 15th and Sunday, June 16th. As soon as we're allowed to talk about it, we want to. So I expect it to be hopefully very soon. We're just waiting for the agency to make a visit to the site. So June's going to be a busy month in Petrolia, so we look forward to lots of celebration. Skipping ahead to August, we have a great big weekend planned. I recently came to council requesting that Rick had very specific additional signing authority for this August weekend in particular. And that is so that we can come to you with an announcement that is solidified and confirmed instead of coming to you with, let's try and get these folks. And if we can't, the public has that name. So we're trying to make sure that we have things in that under promise over deliver category. This August weekend, we also welcome the Snowbirds for a flyover to town and a parade and a big kids' day that's shaping up to be pretty fun. I think I'd like to be under 13 for that weekend, actually. So we can skip. And again, we just continue through the fall. There's going to be a Hillsdale tour this year. There'll be our Harvest Fest event as expected. The IOD is celebrating 75 years next year, and they have a big event in October, historical hauntings and historical tour around town. So that's a big one. And then in December, we close the year on the 31st at the arena with a party for all ages. That's when you will see a custom fireworks show designed specifically for Petrolia's 150th. So that should be a lot of fun and free skate with a DJ. And it's basically an early New Year's Eve party for everyone. So this is our budget. It is a pretty simple look at the budget. So the first column explains the events. The second column is our identified expenses, including our advertising and events related expenses. In your third column, you'll see the sponsorship, grants, budget, sponsors, donors, all of that. So we are, as you saw earlier, writing several grants, but we are also reaching out to the community and surrounding area for sponsorships, donations, and just overall gifts in kind. And so far, we've been meeting a lot of success. So I believe that those lines are quite attainable. And then our event revenues have to do predominantly with ticket sales. And for the miscellaneous events, swim, skates, all of that stuff, it has to do with our clothing, apparel, and swag sales. So that's all kind of in one. And then our totals are at the end. And after we have effectively supported our band shell through our efforts, it looks like there will be a surplus. When we have this surplus, the intention is to bring that surplus to the committee, and the committee make a recommendation to council to share it among programs in our community that serve one and all to the best of our ability. So you will see probably recommendation for, work as far as the backyard at the YMCA, work on other projects that will benefit young people and people of all abilities and ages. So that's the budget in a nutshell. And then there's a whole bunch of other ongoing stuff as well. As you know, meat raffles, things like that every week, and that continues. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff going on with 150. We're selling commemorative coins. We're popping up here and there with cupcakes and swag booths at town events. We will show up places that you maybe least suspect, and we have a few little swag items to give away. We're working on a mosaic mural project, which I am super excited about. It's an 8-foot by 4-foot mural that will go on the side of the rehearsal hall next to the village's 150 celebration. And it's 3.5 by 3.5 inch squares that young people will be encouraged to attend the arts den and paint and provide back to the committee to be put together as a mosaic mural and then sealed, so that it should last us at least 25 years is the intention. So that's going to be a free thing for kids to do and families to do together. We're doing all kinds of color booklets. You've maybe seen them in our restaurants already. We've handed them out to every dine-in restaurant in Petrolia, and crayons too. And they are going to every library in the Lambton County Library System as we speak. We are working with the Independent on a special edition newspaper, and it's going to be a really big blast for Petrolia. It's going to look really cool. There's a coloring contest. Our businesses are doing historic window displays featuring sort of the then and now. And the thing that's not on this list is that we have partnered with a local business to provide branded items that will be announced on December 15th. So you're just going to have to wait a little longer for those guys, but I don't want to steal their thunder. But next. Yeah, and we have all kinds of decorations. So this town's about to turn green and white. The downtown pennants are going up on the 27th of December. Jason and I have a day that day to take care of the Christmas ones and put those up. And then we start with bunting our flags. The flags actually raised on January 1st out front and at other facilities that have town flags. Lawn signs will be showing up. We have a great big photo backdrop. We're unveiling a new mural walking tour. So there's all kinds of things coming that way. And our big music festival in August, as I talked about. We're looking for, we're starting pre-sales in December. And Petrolia residents can buy the whole weekend for $150. Non-residents will be $260. This is intentional because we would like our residents to be able to attend our birthday party. So we're making it as affordable as we can. Our clothes are online, as I mentioned. And you know how to catch up with us. We're not too far away. And as always, we're looking for volunteers. So far, our reach for volunteers has been very successful. People are really excited. We're getting people of all ages, all abilities. We've even had people offer to stamp and stuff envelopes. And I feel like that's the biggest win of all so far because that job's a tough one sometimes. And yeah, so our timeline here, our printed calendars, that's where we're at right now. So we should be sending them out just a couple of days later than we intended. But November, we're right online to get them printed. December, everything's going to be in their hands. 2 weeks after they receive them is when we go on sale for the Hardall Music Festival. We hope to have the bands at that time. If we don't, we'll go on sale anyway, and people can either choose to buy without the titles or they can wait and see. And in Heather's independent large edition, our hope is to have those bands for that first edition of the January commemorative newspaper and make the big announcement in conjunction with that newspaper. If there are any questions, I would be pleased to answer them.
Before I open it up to council, I want to say, wow, I think you, Mrs. Ellsworth, the members of the committee, the volunteers, I think this is great, and I'm really excited about the celebrations. Every month there's something going on. So again, good work. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to run one more time was because of the 150 celebrations. And now, as you're aware of, the county is also celebrating. I'm aware of one event, so I'll stop there. We'll open it up for council. Any discussions?
Just,
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Field.
oh, there we go. For you, your worship. I just want to echo that. It is an exciting thing and there is starting to become that buzz in the community. So I'm looking forward to the 150. I slowly ordered my big order of clothing and stuff. The first one was too high, so we have to pace it over a period of time, but I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see all the events and for the big announcements. I think the newspaper is going to be amazing, having a black and white. I think it's going to be black and just black ink.
Through your worship, it is, yeah, and it's I can never remember what it's called, but it's a
Spreadsheet.
it's a giant newspaper,
Oh, the full-size
typical,
newspaper.
yeah, typical of 150 years ago. Their team at the Independent has even been able to use their creativity to take modern digital images and make them look old. So even those images are going to look like those little pinpoint drawings and things like that. They've really been working hard. And if I can ever come up with the name of that newspaper size.
Broadsheet.
A broadsheet, thank you. I always want to say digest and it's like way not, but a broadsheet is like the historical image of, you know, that gentleman coming home from work, putting his feet up and reading the newspaper. It's that size. It's a great big giant, beautiful newspaper. So pretty exciting.
I'm excited for you. You'll be able to take holidays the following years.
That's right.
2025 out of office. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mrs. Ellsworth or comments? If not, we'll move on to the conclusions and I'll turn that over to Mr. Charlebois, please. Page 82.
Okay, page 82. So as mentioned, our replacement value for all our assets, 363 million, which are critical to the town maintaining its level of service to residents. Asset management plans are mandatory now to even apply for provincial or federal grants. We brought our updated plan, asset management plan to council, which approved in 2023. We have a long-term capital and financial plan that we've been maintaining for close to 10 years now. The open session just before council on the 11th of December. And our plan is to bring to council for approval the second Monday in January, the 8th of January.
That'd be the first Monday in January.
Second.
Second, oh, it's the holiday, is it?
Right, first Monday's. a
Oh,
holiday.
gotcha. Thank you. All right.
Your worship, through your worship to our CAO, there was some discussion in the office yesterday. There is a proposal to come
Yeah.
forward to council, just on the timing of that January 8th being the first full Monday back, that there was some conflicts identified that we may make a request for council to consider moving the January meeting to the middle of the month, because it just, with the holidays this year, the way the structure lined up, so.
I'm okay with that. I think whatever you
That'd be-
decide.
Excuse me, through your worship, that'll come on the 11th of December.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions regarding the conclusions from Mr. Shalabov? Councillor Welsh.
Not a question, a comment. Thank you to all the staff. I know how much work this is. This is an excellent budget. Thank you for bringing us something so easy to work with.
You're welcome. Thank
I
you.
certainly agree. I think, yes, Mr. Charlebois, you make it so we can, or I can even understand it, so that's good. All right, so what we'll do now is I'm just gonna go through the actual the budgets. We'll go through it a page at a time. If you have any questions, just stop me and we'll discuss it. So we'll go to page. Okay, sorry, and that's the town operating budget. There's no rush, but I don't think we need to go through it line by line. But I think if there's something you want to ask a question, please do so. So if you want to look at the town operating budget first. I had mentioned the planning and development going up 53.4%, but I think that's because of so much development and things happening. Also, the fire department's taken a pretty good hike at 20.4%. Arena, 24%. I'll stop there. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you. Through you, just a general question. Do we set like an annual target for an operating surplus, or how are we developing what our target is for surplus?
Oh, Mr. Shaw, do you want to
yeah.
try and comment on
Yeah.
that?
Our target every year is 0 to come with a balanced budget. Although,
Sorry, let me rephrase. The amount we're transferring into working capital reserve, is there a target that we're setting?
Okay,
yeah, that's.
Go ahead.
Another
Yeah.
good question.
so related to
Um,
just working capital. Yeah,
Yeah, we've gone from 0, it's on one of the slides, to now, we've got as high as, I think it was at about 2 million in that slide. And so about 1.5 million. But now that we've done a fair bit of capital the last number of years, so 1.5 million is a good target. We haven't written that down anywhere. But that's sort of the informal target we try to hit. Yes. Good question. To keep our working capital reserve replenished.
Deputy Mayor Field.
And that's just going to fluctuate depending on what projects we're doing that year. And I think there was a lot of confusion in past years that, yes, we have a surplus of 1.485 million, but we need 1.485 million to go into capital. So it's a transfer, it's an in and out. This is how much we're moving for our projects that we're doing this year. So if we're doing bigger projects, we might transfer more.
Thank you. Councillor Welsh.
Not in here because I don't think it costs us anything, but are we going to continue on with the composting agreement with Home Hardware for the home composters?
Through your worship, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we brought the dates, losing my months, but in the fall, and yeah, we will continue that. I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but yeah, we'll put that out to the public. They can come, and I've talked to Jay, and yeah, we're all good to go. I sold 21 last year.
I have 4 in case you're wondering. Okay, any other questions? We'll move on to the next page. Other revenue. I'll give you a minute to look that over. I have one for Mr. Charlebois regarding the interest earned main bank. Year to date, we're looking at 335,000 and we're budgeting 200,000. Why wouldn't we maybe consider moving that up to 300?
Yes, through your worship, the 2023 has been a really good year for, well, depends on which side of the fence you're on. For people that have money sitting in the bank, it's hit all-time highs from, I think, 2008 or something. The most analysts are predicting the rates will start dropping in early 2024, mid 2024. So that's why we picked 200,000. This is abnormally high. And by the time we get to 2025, I expect the 200,000 will be even lower.
Thank you. Councillor Hyatt.
Question through you, thank you. Just a question on the revenue stream, the OCIF and the gas tax. Can they only support projects related to non-water or non-sewer, or can those be transferred to sewer and water reserves?
Okay, through your worship, yeah, they can be used in any of the core assets, which are the roads, water and sewer. And don't know if council recalls, but the first budget a year ago, we were gonna start using, because we've been using OCIF and gas tax for roads only, but because of the demand in water and sewer, we had a plan to start using it for water and sewer, but the water intake we haven't spent as quickly as we thought we were going to spend. It's delayed a bit. Yeah, but we will.
Just to clarify, but it can go anywhere. I think that's important to be aware of. Okay. If there's no more, I'll move on to the next page, the library. And the only change there is Mr. Charlebois stated we're putting $20,000 in to go towards a new air conditioner system and what's involved, but that will balance off because we'll be getting that money from the county. So there's, it just wasn't listed here.
Yeah, it's on the
But-
capital.
It's on the capital, okay. I guess the other question then to Mr. Charlebois, that $8,000 for the library repair and maintenance, maybe there's some of that also can be transferred to the county. It's just a thought, that's all.
Yeah, I think,
If it's to do with painting or something, I know it's for
Yeah.
the children's portion, but anything related to the building that can go towards.
yeah, I think it's supposed to be for capital, but there might be some.
Okay, that's
that might
fine.
Be close enough to capital.
And
Good.
through you, that is the answer. I think we asked that question last year and it was pointed out that it couldn't be operational things. It had to be a set project, so.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, heritage. I guess what's involved with the salaries of $10,000 and we didn't have anything there before? We would like to address that.
Andy.
Mrs. Pierce?
Absolutely. So that is for a summer student. We hope to offset that by some successful grant. That summer student would be, hopefully, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but should the budget be passed and the software be received, we will need a student to be able to do the transposition of the new software.
Okay, thank you.
But again, there is funding out there through I miss this on every time, not the Ontario Heritage Trust. It's a special funding for heritage-related students.
Okay, Councillor O'Hara.
Yeah, excuse me. The heritage grants and improvements, is that for business owners that can apply
Aside.
for their buildings?
Yeah.
Is there any people have applications in now?
Not yet, but everybody kind of waits to see if it's gonna pass the budget.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay,
All right, we'll move on to planning and development. If there's nothing there, we'll move on to the cemetery. And seeing none, oh,
Deputy
sorry,
Mayor Field?
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Field.
Through you, I guess this is one that hits every page, and I just wondered if there was an answer overall, the insurance costs across the town. What is our increase this year? I know it's a couple $1,000s here, a couple $1,000s there, but do you have a total for the whole community?
Mr. Charlebois, would you
Yes,
answer that, please?
Yes, thanks. Through your worship, thank you very much for that question, Deputy Mayor Field. One of the things I was supposed to say this morning that I didn't say, we just got some good news really recently, in the last day or two. So in our budget, draft budget, we've got 15%, because that's what we were told a couple months ago that it would be, but we were just told that it's going to be 9% on average for all our insurance. So we got to figure all that out. There's a quite an involved spreadsheet because we allocate the insurance to each part of the municipality. But overall, it's supposed to be 9% as opposed to 15%.
That's great.
Which is great, as the last budget talked about the last few years, the insurance for everybody has been skyrocketing 20-30% a year.
So what is the savings on that, Mr. Charlebois? Do you know, offered, what kind of we talking? What we've budgeted for though is 15%. It's coming in at 9%.
Yeah.
Just approximately.
15 grand, 20 grand, maybe if we're lucky.
Do we actually have an additional 15,000
Yeah.
plus the 75,000 that you've
Yeah,
got
we'll
still working?
update that before we present to
Okay.
the public and before it goes to council. And any other little changes, like for example, if we find out our OSIF allocation for 2024, we'll update that as well.
Okay. All right, moving on to general administration. Okay, we'll go on to general administration, page 9. Go to general administration, page 10. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Field.
Yeah, through your worship, just regarding the training and the associations, did we join more associations this year? We budgeted 62, line 2, and it was 11,000.
Mr. Charlebois, can you speak to that?
Short answer is yes, but I can make a note of that, and when I send my little email around, probably in a week,
Okay.
with some of the questions that have been asked of me, I'll add that question. Yeah.
I see you brought the budget back down though, it's to 6,500, but you spent 11,000.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you. My question is just related to the election expenses. Do we have an election? Why do we have election expenses?
I know the answer, but I'll let Mrs. Pearson speak to that.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Hyatt. We do not. And we all know I'm a very superstitious person, grew up in that industry. So we're going to knock on some wood for any other version of an election. But no, we do a reserve so that when the election year comes, it's not such an impact to the budget. So every year we budget to make that final goal for what we estimate the next 4 years, but elections budget to be.
So it's a special election reserve?
Special election reserve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Patel,
Page 11, are we good to proceed?
page 11. Okay, are we finished with 10?
I'm sorry.
Councillor Welsh, are you on 10?
I think it's 10.
Okay, go ahead.
Associations. I am wondering if we are a member of CNAM yet, and I probably should be if we're going to move ahead with significant updates to our asset management plan. I think there's a lot of valuable information we can access there.
Speak to that, Mr. Charlebois. Is that
Certainly. I'm not sure if we're members of CNAM. I don't think we are, but we'll check that out. Yes.
okay? Thank you. All right, we'll move to page 11. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, through your worship. I see in items of Vic Hall utilities as well as Vic Hall cleaning that we use substantially less than was budgeted. However, we still increased the budget for 2024. Can you speak to that or explain that to me, please?
Mr. Charlebois, go ahead.
Definitely. Yeah, the utilities, and it's for all utilities that we get across the town. there's a 2-month time lag. So that expense, it takes us to the end of October. So there's 4 months left for utilities to come into that
Okay,
general ledger number. Cleaning, same thing. He seems to be a month, 2 months behind in giving us the company giving us our bill.
And
Just the time lag.
could you expand what cleaning, interior cleaning?
Oh, yeah, that's cleaning the town hall. That's what this part of cleaning is.
How often?
Oh, I think they're here, I don't know if it's daily. It's pretty close to daily if it's not like Monday to Friday.
Mrs. Ellsworth, can you speak to that?
Through your worship, it is a daily cleaning, and during theater season, it's twice a day when we have 2 shows. So that's a little bit kind of here and there. But they're also on call for us if we have an incident, and they come in immediately. And it's also exterior cleaning spring and the 2 deep cleans for the year that has been in place during the Christmas time and right around the Canada Day holiday. Okay, sorry, I'm just making sure. But yeah, they're here every day.
Deputy Mayor Field?
Yeah, through you, just a follow-up to Councillor Patel's question. So we budgeted 47 for utilities and we're at 17 and there's going to be additional ones come in. Did we budget too much last year? Is that why we're going to
Yeah, that's what I
32.5?
think. Are
We're
you
coming
able to
down
open
now?
up 2022's? Thank you. 2022. Yeah, 27.
Yeah,
The year.
27.
Actually, my COVID brain is a little foggy. Was the theater open throughout 2022?
Through you, your worship, yes,
Yes,
it was.
okay. Yep.
So we budgeted 20,000 more than we,
Yes.
okay, and then we're going to get it more in realistic.
Yeah.
down. Okay, perfect. Yep, that's great.
2022, everything was back, sort of back to normal.
All right, we'll move on. Go to page 12, facilities maintenance. Okay, we'll go to page 13, protective services. I think, okay, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Field, please.
So going to the county bylaw, where we had the presentation, basically, we're looking at 8 hours per week. Is that the model that or that it's basically suggesting here? Which is flexible in hours and moving up at your discretion. So this is just basically putting that in. So there's going to still be cost recovery that could come against that 29.
Mr. Charlebois, can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, definitely. Through your worship, so after a discussion with council on this item, so we've, as the county presented, it's about 30,000 per year for 1 day of calling proactive bylaw enforcement. So there's 30,000. And then out of that 30, we thought we'd probably get about 10,000 of that recovered from whoever is violating our bylaws. And that 1 day per week, the county is very flexible. We can do like 2 half days or 3 1/3 days. They're very flexible and we can alternate the days when they send somebody over. So we'll model that as Corinne from the county stated, our bylaws first have to be updated to spell out that we're doing the proactive. I think she was aiming for January or February latest was.
It'll be presented to council in draft in February, and then the final bylaws would be March.
March. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Hyatt.
With this proactive bylaw enforcement, what bylaws are we specifically looking to enforce, or is it every bylaw?
Well, I can probably try and speak to that. We usually work on a complaint basis, but if we have someone working out in the field and they see something, we could take action on any other bylaws. But usually we've acted on a complaint basis.
Your worship, so that is the direction council has provided, that we are not complaint basis driven. That's why we need to amend the bylaws. Council's requested that we take proactive approach.
There'll be no complaint-based bylaw enforcement.
Through you, your
Sure,
worship.
go ahead. Yeah.
We would certainly follow up on any complaint based that we would receive, but the direction that staff are following through with from council is a proactive by law enforcement.
And I certainly support that. Deputy Mayor Field.
So to my understanding, so the complaint still could come in, staff would gather those. We have somebody come in during 8 hours, so they're still going to be responding to complaints, but at the same time, they're driving by untidy, where we have clean yard process, they could be actioning some other items. Town staff could also create a list for them and have something for them to do, as well as if we have complaints for parking, we could have parking through that time as well, if it was
Oh, that's
that.
good.
But I think it's just taking a proactive approach and taking the list down and being able to action it instead of calling them for come over for 4 hours to go and check a complaint. They're at least here, they're dealing with it, and they're looking for other things. I just feel like we had our blinders on. We're driving past problems to go to a complaint. Nobody complained about that one, so we didn't go there. So this is now going to be a proactive approach to it. So I'm very supportive of that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Field. I also am very supportive of that due to the complaints I've received over the years. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, through you, your worship. So the security equipment was budgeted 6,000 in 2023 and again in 2024 and 256 used. Can you speak to the reason we've left it at 6 when we've obviously over budgeted based on where we used it in 2023?
Certainly.
Go ahead,
So that's
Mr.
actually
Pearson.
repair and maintenance. So the equipment has held up well. I do understand we have some items scheduled for repair and replacement this year, so that will happen in 2024.
Okay. And the second item, if I may, crossing guard salaries. With the new lights and systems, where are we with how many crossing guards we have and where does that salary, have we eliminated or gained, or are we looking to do one or both?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Charlebois.
Yeah, we just got the crossing light at the post office there. When we had the expert, traffic expert come in 4 or 5 years ago, whatever that was, he said municipalities can, if they want, not have a crossing guard where there's a push button. But given the people and traffic flow at the post office, probably one of the busiest corners we have, we decided internally to keep a crossing guard there. Might change in the future though.
So if I may respond, so if we're going to keep what we currently have, why the increase to support, would the salaries not remain the same?
Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, contract, the 3% increase.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Councillor Hyatt.
I'd just like to touch base on the IT disaster recovery management with, what happened to the hospital? How well do we feel we're protected in terms of what the town has? And is there any need to increase what we're currently have for protection?
Through you, your worship,
ahead,
to Councillor Hyatt. We actually, Annette and I just had a meeting with our IT provider here. Time slipping for me as well, maybe in the last month. And this is more than adequate for a basic concern. It's appropriate given the position that we're in, and I would say that we're comfortable with the approach, and hence the reason there's a cyber insurance line, but the IT disaster and recovery management covers off some of that requirement. So I would say we're comfortable. We have spoken with IT following other area disasters, and it was identified that 3 of the particular units that we utilize would have been beneficial in that situation.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Hyatt.
I'd like to circle back to bylaw enforcement. Like there's some bylaws we have that say like you can only water your grass every other day. If you have snowfall, you need to clear off the sidewalk in front of your house. Are those going to be bylaws that bylaw enforcement is going to be enforcing?
I think there's a fine line. We'll have to look at
Yeah.
the ones that are, okay, more important, but go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
I think it's tidy yard, property standards, parking, long grass, the usual suspects. No, I think, obviously the county needs some direction is exactly what bylaw they're gonna enforce, but those are the ones that generally we get complaints about. Like there's always a complaint about a couch at the road or long grass and parking, so I think those
We have,
ones.
we have the main ones that we've always had problems with.
So as part
Deputy
of
Mayor
the
Field.
So as part of the request for bylaw enforcement, are we going to establish which bylaws and specifically that these bylaw enforcement officers are going to be looking at?
Go ahead, Mr. Charlebois.
Yeah, good question, Counselor Hyatt. That's when the bylaws come back in draft, like Mandy was saying, and was it February, March?
Everywhere. I think.
February, yeah, right, and then come March for approval. That's when staff will make its recommendations on the ones that are proactive, like you're saying, which one was with the snow removal in front of the house? That's probably not a one we'd want to recommend to be proactive on.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Field.
Yeah, I feel that it is a good question and, you know, we do have a lot of ones. I think we still have one on the books that we get, we're famous for whistling in public. I don't think we're supposed to do that. I think that, you know, I trust that staff are gonna direct these bylaw folks to deal with the ones that are, they're not gonna come in and go after little Mrs. Jones down because she doesn't have her snow, but I think I'm confident that staff will direct them in the right way and, but we could get famous if we get a whistling by law enforcement.
I do have to mention that whistling, that came from the Ministry of the Environment when we had to do noise bylaws. That was their request. Thank you. I just want to ask, do we looking at a dog census this year at all, anywhere?
I can speak to that if you wish, your worship.
Please.
Not this year. What we did is we actually, we changed our licensing process. So it is where you are charged and you must tell us if you no longer have your dog. So once that gets settled, we will then look at doing a licensing call, probably in 2025. It's very staff intensive, and with the transition of Glencoe Animal Shelter no longer, with her retirement and the transition, that's something I think will work out actually probably countywide for collaboration.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay, my last question on the bylaws. please.
Go ahead, Counselor Hyatt.
If we're going to update bylaws, February, sometime around there, can we please ensure that we send in some notification to all the town residents on how the bylaws have been changed so that they can proactively and voluntarily try and fix any infractions that they may have prior to us proactively going out and issuing potentially fines?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I certainly will direct staff, if we approve that, to do something or put something in the paper that these bylaws will be enforced. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so that, we'll move on to, I think, 14. Number 14, anything on 14? Let's go to page 15, the fire department. I guess I could be the bad guy. Maybe I could ask the chief here, what's happening with the new fire truck? We approved at Enniskillen and Din. Is that coming back to fire management?
Through your worship, and thanks so much for bringing that up. I really appreciate that. Currently, it's back in fire committee's hands, and the latest direction was we're going to go back to square one and start over with a new spec truck.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions on fire management? Councillor O'Hara.
For you, your worship, I'd just like to comment, by the time we buy this truck, it'll probably gone up 30 or 40% in cost.
Okay, thank you.
As demonstrated in the washroom that was going up.
All right, let's move on. It's still the fire department, page 16. Fire Department, page 17. And the Fire Department, page 18. Any questions? Okay, if not, we'll move on to Public Works, page 19. Seeing nothing, we'll go to page 20. Councillor Hyatt?
Thank you. I just have a question on works equipment purchases. What's the difference between this budget line versus capital purchases for works equipment?
Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
Your Worship to Councillor Hyatt, that's for like, paint, a new broom, a shovel, miscellaneous, here and there. Any kind of repairs obviously goes to the Public Works equipment repairs budget. But yeah, that's just kind of a catch-all. Anything that the, Public Works needs from day-to-day, operations.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Public Works, page 21. Sorry, Councillor O'Hara.
Quick question. Do we use any brine in the winter?
Mr. Thompson?
Through your worship, the only place we put brine is the, south side of Petrolia line, the sidewalks in the shade all the time. So it's always got this frost on it. So we have a little, thing on the back of the Kubota that disperses the brine.
County does the bridges, right?
Yeah, county does the bridges and sometimes the roads, depending on the temperatures and what's exactly going on. But yeah, we brine the north side of Petrolia line, the sidewalk where it's shaded. Correct. South side of Petrolia line, sorry.
Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you. Through you. Just a question on sanitation collection costs. Is it charged like per ton, or how do we pay a fee for sanitation collection?
Yeah.
You wanna
So,
speak? Go ahead, Mr. Charlebois.
Sure. Through you, worship. So the big change this year, just last month, actually. So on the recycle part of it, that's all now what's called, what they call
New program.
EMO. I forget the acronym.
Yes.
Something,
Circular material.
Circular Material Ontario. They've set up another organization in the province. So now blue boxes we're no longer responsible for. And for the garbage or the landfill destined,
It's on tonnage, yes.
it's through a contract with Waste Management. And we're switching to the big bins in, is it April?
February, March.
Oh, right, they said they could do it in the winter, yeah. Right, to the big rolly bins. They've been doing that in other places, a few spots. Are they in Plymouth, Wyoming?
They used to be, but now we still have them, but it's not, yeah, long story.
Changing, okay, great.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're gonna switch to that, and starting in February.
Correct.
But it's all a contract with, Waste Management. There's a part of our recycle that we'll still be responsible for, and that's the downtown merchants. We have a big bin where we take all their cardboard and stuff, they drop it off at the work yard. So the whole provincial change to get better recycling excluded commercial. So either the municipalities pick up the commercial part, which is what we're recommending to council, or the municipality moves away from it. We recommended that we pick it up because we were doing it before and that we continue to do it.
Well, the charges do come from tonnage and there's a fuel surcharge as well.
Okay.
And in there is obviously large item pickup twice a year,
Okay.
Recycling, and garbage collection.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you. So in addition with sanitation collection, there is a large increase of what was actually spent. Is there any cost recovery with the new system coming in, the wheelie bins and or recycling?
Yeah,
The recycle is drastically reduced.
Right.
Yeah, if you look at recycle,
Yes, sorry.
gone way down to 16,000. So there is a savings for the town on this new recycling system and this
Yeah.
new system.
It's called producers responsible,
Responsibility.
like all the producers that produce recycled material. They're the ones that are paying for the CMO, Circulation Material Ontario. And so that, because it's, they want the companies that produce the recycle stuff to, rather than putting a whole bunch of packing material around it, they'll shrink it. So there's less stuff to recycle. They'll be incentivized financially, because as they reduce the cost to run CMO, the cost to all the producers will reduce, all the suppliers.
But yes, thank you. My mistake. I'm talking about, so correction on the garbage collection, there is an offset cost to taxpayers for the blue bins, for the wheeling bin, correction? Is that not a taxable?
Bins,
The residents do pay for different sizes of bins?
No.
Mr. Schalabah,
Waste Management's gonna provide all the bins early February.
Correct.
Yeah, it's part of the cost that town will pay every year. They'll maintain, the Waste Management will distribute them, maintain them. And if somebody needs to buy a new bin or new residents come to town, Waste Management will ensure they get their bins.
Okay, thank you.
but I think to be clear on that, they are supplying them at no cost
Right.
to the taxpayers.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Hyatt.
Okay, circling back to garbage collection tonnage. I think St. Clair Township has done a pilot plant project on these food cyclers, which turn combustible food waste into soil. So I'm wondering if we can get some information from them on how the pilot program worked and if it would be of value to adding a pilot program to Petrolia to see if there's any value in composting into soil combustible.
Let's just, I'll ask Mrs. Pearson to comment on that, please.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. To all members of council, stay tuned. They've reached out. The company that I losing their name at the moment have asked to be a delegation to council in winter 2024.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Field.
Yes, thank you. That question came up at county council when I was covering. They did that same presentation at county council and I don't want to say the wrong municipality, but I believe it might have been Lambton Shores that did this and had a lot more information and actually state that there isn't a benefit the way they were quoting the benefit as back to the municipality and sort of debunked some of the stuff actually during that council meeting. I can go back into that council meeting and take a look at it, but they had already proven that it wasn't meeting that standard. So if it's the same one through the county hasn't adopted it or is not going. So they were trying to do it to all the committees.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Field. All right, let's move on to page 22, Community Center. I think, Mr. Charlebois, that 11.5% operating fee, is that the same as before or is that increased?
No, same percentage.
Thank you.
It's in our contract with the Y.
Okay, thank you. No other questions. We'll move on to page 23, the arena. I guess my question is, I see on here that Oil Springs has never contributed their fair share to the arena operation. Is that being dealt with, Mr. Charlebois, by the Parks and Rec Committee or? Mrs. Pearson, yeah, go ahead.
So that background through you, Your Worship, that's the MPMP program, and Enniskillen, sorry, I apologize. Oil Springs, unlike Enniskillen, that do contribute in our area municipalities without arenas that do contribute. Oil Springs passed a motion that they would not contribute, and they continue to pass that motion at their council level to not contribute to the program. So the funds are passed on directly to the residents. So it's, while the municipality isn't paying for it, the residents that are signed up for ice use at our Petrolia Arena are invoiced annually directly. So it's still being received as a revenue. It's just not being received through the municipality. It's the residents themselves of an
Okay.
Oil Springs that are covering that.
And I'm okay with that. I guess my concern is when we look at charging other municipalities and they see one that doesn't pay, I'm sure they're gonna think, well, we don't want to pay either. So that's fine as long as the actual users are paying. Counselor Hyatt.
Thank you. Question, have we ever considered like the grant revenue section for the arena, transposing that over to the YMCA? Similar concept.
So
Mr. Pearson, go ahead.
this is something that's provincially regulated through the MPMP. So we could probably look further into that if there is something, but this is specifically for the arena under that MPMP program.
Go ahead, Mr. Charlebois.
The Petroleum municipality did try about 8 or 9 years ago to have a residential rate to join what was before it was the Y, our community center, in a non-residential rate. That didn't last very long because the non-residents got excited and most of them were saying they were going to leave. And like most things that have a lot of fixed costs, the more volume, the better it is for the one that's holding the operation. And in the past, I know at least 2 times in the last 10 years, the mayor and the previous CEO sat down with the other mayors and their CEOs to try and talk about stuff like that. It didn't go well. You know, if Deputy Mayor Field was involved in that, I just heard the result of it. That didn't go well. No,
I don't want to say.
you don't understand.
No.
But it is unfortunate with the community center, actually, Enniskillen, for example, none of the municipalities contributed anything towards that building. With Enniskillen surrounded Petrolia, it's unfortunate. There's it keeps coming. I keep hearing about paying their fair share. So I'll stop there. Let's move on then to still the arena, page 24.
Well, I got one on.
Oh, sure,
Sorry,
go ahead,
sorry.
Councillor Harron.
On Arena, mezzanine rentals, do we, like, that's a nice space. Do we not market it very well or what's?
Good question. Mr. Thompson, and I don't know if you could
That's
speak to
not fair
that.
for Mike either, because.
I'm not sure, sorry. Maybe, I'm not sure if other staff would know how that's marketed, but it's in our fee schedule, obviously.
Yeah.
Which
can
is online, which
Pass
we
that
talked
on to the
about.
new director.
Yeah, we'll pass. Yeah, I don't think we do, Councillor Harron,
Is
but
it-
we can
it's
pass
a
it on.
Space.
Yeah,
And it's accessible and it just must look like one rental there or something all year.
okay. Yeah, that's something we can pass on to the new individual. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll go on now to 24. Under the arena. Page 25, under the arena. We'll go to Parks and Rec on page 26. And again, tell me if you want me to slow down and I will. They still under Parks and Rec, page 27. Oh, sorry, Councillor Patel.
Thank you, through you, your worship. So the bench program. We had decided last year that we were gonna wait, last budget meeting, that we were gonna wait because of the cost per bench and it hadn't been allocated as to a new cost and prices had gone up, so on and so forth. But I think that at that time, we did say that we were gonna bring that back for discussion, and I think we are today. I'd really like to discuss that as far as revisiting this program. There's obviously money there. And I really think it's a great program that should be utilized or revisited.
I think there's money there budgeted for it to go into action this year. Is that not correct, Mrs. Pearson?
That's
So-
my understanding, your worship. It has returned, as Councillor Patel indicated. It was removed from the budget at budget time last year, and it has been returned to that direction this year.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Charlebois, go ahead.
You've summarized that really well, Councillor Patel. So we reviewed the cost structure, what it costs the town to do the benches, which was the challenge when we brought the budget forward. We knew we weren't recovering the cost of the bench program, but at the prices we have now for 24, which is in the fee schedule, we feel we'll recover the cost, and it is a very popular program.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to page 28, Parks and Recreation. I guess my question, Mr. Charlebois, that 46,000 for the Conservation Authority levy, is that their actual number?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to double check, when we cut the grass down there, does that show up in parks or you've got Bridgeview Park salaries. When we cut the grass in Bridgeview Park, where does that show? Under Parks and Rec, under Parks?
Under Parks and Rec,
Okay.
yeah.
The reason I wanted to mention that to council is, just so you're aware of it, the town does maintain Bridgeview Park. We look after putting in the dock. We look after the band or the picnic shelters. We do all of that. The trail, we do all of that. Conservation Authority does not contribute towards that. They look after the dam, and that's it. I just wanted you to understand that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on then to community events, page 29. Okay, Farmers Market, page 30. Farmers Market, page 31. Marketing, page 32. Marketing, page 33. Councillor Patel.
Just a
Okay.
question under beautification and maintenance, through you, your worship. Has there been any more conversation about the downtown buildings kind of having a stronger suggestion on beautification and or repairs, especially because of the 150? Certainly that's been overdue, but maybe a extra encouragement to be able to, is that included in this, or could it be? Is this the right category and time to ask?
I think we approved a bylaw, but I'll ask Mrs. Ellsworth to comment on that, please.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. Yes, there is a policy in place for what we call minimum maintenance standards for the fronts of the stores and rentability of the said stores as well. I have sent some very unreasonably gentle but firm letters as recently as the 1st of October, advising that within the next 90 days, they will start to see this policy take place should they not proceed with the request that we have made 90 days prior to that. So far, I've heard from one business that's ready to do some of the things we've asked, but no one else. So that policy will enact about on or around the 1st of January, which is a monthly registration fee until repairs are made. So right now we're looking at five storefronts. Letters went to 5 storefronts.
So thank you. So 5 storefronts that we feel are not abiding, and they have 90 days to comply, and then the actions are going to start transpiring as a monthly fee or penalty.
Correct.
Is there
Through your worship, yeah.
is there additional a length of time or action to do the repairs and or like what's next? What's next step if they don't?
Gotcha. Thank you. Through you, your worship. So it's a multi-phase process effectively. So more than 90 days ago now, we sent a letter identifying their concerns. Maybe it's a broken window, maybe it's peeling paint to a degree that it's quite detrimental to the appearance. Perhaps it's a wall with no drywall or plaster on it so that it can't be rented. And then as recently, and sorry, time's kind of escaped me, and I think it was the first week of October, we sent the follow-up letter to say, we haven't heard from any of you effectively. And now step 2 is you have 90 days to remedy or rectify the situation or provide us with a plan of how you plan to do so within the next reasonable amount of time, which I think reasonable is 6 months, given that some of this is over the winter. And should you not proceed with either A, a plan, or B, the repairs or the issue resolution by that 90-day deadline from that letter, it's a $750 registration fee. And then we go to the County of Lambton for the nope, that's not right, not tidy yard. I forget what it's called. There's a bylaw that affects property maintenance and standards. That's it. Thank you. And then they would come in, follow up with, those broken windows, that sort of thing. And they would levy an expense on the business owner monthly until the repairs are made or a plan is in place for a reasonable amount of time.
Thank you. So is there something, as practical as this is, that moving forward, when we do our new business licensing and we hopefully have the growth and people coming in, that this could not be part of that original application for the maintenance, even though there's some type of a contract that's built in between the owner and the leaseor with this business, that there is a certain standard of maintenance that needs to be brought up to snuff? And as far as I go and rent an empty building that hasn't been brought up to code, I'm the new business that then is unaware of this. Could that not be a little bit of a nudge in the right direction for landlords or building owners to make sure that their building is up to code before somebody approaches it?
Through you, Your Worship, I think this is 2 parts. My part is it goes to the building owner anyway. So it never goes to the business owner unless they are also the building owner. So in the case that I own a building downtown and I own the business inside, certainly I'm going to get that letter. If I am only the business owner, I'm never going to see that letter. It's going to go right to the facility or the building owner. I might pass it to the clerk, through your worship, if possible, to say anything about the application process if you include this already. I can't speak to it, to be honest.
Thank you. Mrs. Pearson, would you speak to that, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. To Councillor Patel, through the building application process, what we're looking for is habitation or access and safety of the public going into that building structure. So that is how our bylaw is currently designated, is prior to us issuing a building license, are they in compliance with zoning, with the signage bylaw, and through fire and building, is it safe for us to invite the public into that building? That's what allows them compliance with a business license and approval to open. If we want to put something about an aesthetics on there, we would have to change that into our bylaw that requests that a certain level of aesthetics be achieved before reaching that business license. And again, to Director Ellsworth's point, that is the business or the property owner's responsibility, not necessarily the business owner's. So that may derail a business from being able to open in a downtown building or any building in town if they have to force the owner to make a aesthetics compliance.
Thank you for the answer. So totally agree where the responsibility lies, but it certainly would be a nudge in the right direction for a building owner to come into compliance if they were not able to rent the building and have the income or revenue because they didn't feel as though the standard in which their business was operating, it was certainly it would prohibit them from renting it until they brought it up to compliance.
And through you, Your Worship, that is actually part of the policy. The only time we don't want to stop that or take that part of the policy and enact it is if we're going to prevent someone from opening a store or a business. So right now, there's a couple of facilities sitting empty that are actually on our list that we have reached out to. One of them actually has businesses in it because of the first letter that went out in the summertime, as an example.
Excellent.
So yes, it is sort of a proactive and reactive situation. However, we don't want to step in the middle of that application process, but we will continue if we have started, or we will start when appropriate, if that helps.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Mrs. Ellsworth. Mrs. Pearson, would you like to speak to that, please?
Certainly. So if that is still the direction of council for us to add that fifth check mark on a business license application, we would just need some direction through a regular council, not a finance council meeting or a budget council meeting, but that would be a direction requesting staff to change the process to add that extra step.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe Councillor Patel could bring that up at the next council meeting. We could put that through. I just want to mention too, as it's kind of, and I agree with this process, but I do think if you remember a few years ago, there was a special vacancy rate that the owners of the building got for leaving it vacant. They had a special tax rate. That was removed, and I think that is helping a little bit and not encouraging people to keep the building sitting empty. All right, let's keep moving. We're on page 34, reserves and loans. Okay, I'll have ask our CAO treasurer, Mr. Charlebois, to speak to those, please.
Okay, certainly through you, your worship. So that first number, the 1.5 million, that's our transfer to our working capital reserve plan transfer. And then the OSIF is the next number. It's the same as 2023 because we haven't received our allocation yet. I'm hoping it goes up when we get the news within the next, hopefully, couple of weeks. And the last number there is our gas tax revenue that we get from the federal government. That's all the reserves. Don't we do
Yeah.
loan?
Your worship, we're at 157. I don't know if that's, we're just moving on to a different department, but we are at 157.
Okay, let's, yeah, we're gonna break at 2 o'clock. Let's just see if we can get through the loans and then we'll break for a few minutes at that time. Go ahead, Mr. Charlebois.
Thank you. There's the loans of $306,000 for 2024. And like I mentioned earlier today, that'll drop down to 150,000 in 2025 as we start paying off our loans.
Okay, thank you. All right, so well, we could start a little bit. We'll keep going till 2 o'clock. Let's go to page 35, Victoria Playhouse, Petrolia. Start at 35, theater revenue, theater expenses, rehearsal hall office, and debenture payments. Any questions? If not, we'll go on to page 36, Victoria Playhouse. We have the revenue and the expenses. Page 37, VPP, special events, other expenses. Page 38, Victoria Playhouse, advertised marketing, performers and show costs. Page 39, building costs for Victoria Playhouse, debenture payment, and VPP rehearsal hall and workshop. Okay.
Detailed water.
Yeah, just before we break then, I guess the question here is, that pretty well finishes it, unless you want to go through the detailed budgets on water and wastewater. Now, I know we've done most of those already, but do you wish to do those few pages? We probably could.
Yeah.
All right, you know, why don't we consider just finishing this off and not take the break, and then we're finished for the day? Are you okay with that? All right, so we'll keep going then on to the water department. Page 44, we'll skip to 44 under the water department. Okay, page 45, water department revenue expenses in the booster station. Page 46, water department, water administration, water billing collection, and water equipment. Page 47, petroleum distribution and water capital. Page 48, water department, total capital and reserves. Councillor O'Hara.
On the band shell, that's to take water out to the new band shell, is it? It's that much, is it?
Well,
Go ahead,
Rough.
Mr. Charlebois.
Yeah, we have to run the line to the band shell for the washrooms. Yeah.
Okay, but it's not doing the plumbing then, though.
No, it's getting the water to the band shell, correct?
Okay.
If you, unless you know some plumber that could help us.
Bigger too.
Yeah, right.
All right, we'll move on to page 49, sewer department. Balance is off. Oh, no, sorry. I'm just looking at, yeah, sorry. There you go.
Yeah, so. There's a net decrease of the sewer reserve of just over $6,000.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
But it's close to zero.
okay, page 50. Sewer department revenue, expenses and sanitary sewers. Page 51, sewer department, wastewater treatment plant, sewer capital and reserves. And the last page, page 52, sewer department. Okay, that completes it. I think what I'd like to do before we have the motion to accept the budget or the draft as amended, could I ask, there was 75,000 and was it 17,000 or 50? No. Sorry.
No, the 17 was the sidewalk thing, which was just rolling into the next year, right?
Okay, so that's,
To the next project, so there was no return.
okay, so it's just the $75,000. All right, so I guess the question is, what do you want to do with that $75,000 unless it goes into your working capital? Deputy Mayor Field.
Excellent. Through you, your worship. I guess it's maybe it's a dumb question, but what does $75,000 do for M1, M2 crack sealing extra for sidewalks? Is that something that would be a benefit to moving it towards that? And when Councillor O'Hara mentioned, you know, the M1, M2 stuff, we're not, or the R1, R2, sorry, wrong acronym.
Yeah,
Is there any benefit to that?
through your worship, I mean, I think it could go towards sidewalks if council wishes to do that, but we'll leave, it's up to you guys, but I mean, we haven't got any engineering done or any kind of design done on any R1, R2, because obviously, I mean, we got a lot of other stuff to do, but it could go towards sidewalks if that answers your question.
Thank you for that, Councillor Thompson. I'd certainly like to recommend to council they consider putting it into sidewalks. That would be a good one. Councillor O'Hara.
Well, we have one spot in town, it's, you know, high visibility spot. There's a piece of the street between the market and Van Tiles that almost doesn't exist. Like if we could maybe mill that square out of there and put new asphalt in.
Through your worship, that would take no engineering or design. That
Yeah.
would be simple, not a simple call, but I mean, we could tender that out or put some sort of a tender document together. I mean, that probably wouldn't even, might be $25,000-$30,000, but I could get a price from a couple people and see where it comes in, and then that'll trigger if we have to go for tender RFP or what have you. I can work with the treasurer on that, but that's a really good point.
It's an important place because it's kind of in the center of the street. And, you know, the amount of people that go to the market and functions at the market, I just think it'd be a good place to put that money.
That's a good point, and I'd certainly support that or do that, and whatever's left, put into sidewalks maybe. Councillor Welsh.
Just could we ask staff to actually come back with recommendations for that $75,000 that would benefit the whole community, such as what Councillor O'Hara is recommending in sidewalks, et cetera.
Thank you. Councillor Hyatt.
Just a comment, pretty much every project we've seen last year came in way over budget versus what we were expecting to pay. Do we think that the recreation project is, the $891,000 is going to be relatively close to what the actual cost to build the washroom and all of the associated services, or would it make more sense just to leave the 75K
Well, I
in
think we
working
have to put
capital.
it somewhere, or it's gonna affect our
Just leave it in
percentage.
working capital in terms of,
Yep, we could do that.
I
I'm open
I
for a
don't think we've
motion.
seen many projects that were close to what,
I'll move, we put it into working capital for now until projects come forward or necessities as
Okay.
Councillor Hyatt.
I need a seconder for that, please. Seconded by Councillor Hyatt. I'll ask for any discussion regarding putting that money, that 75,000 into our working capital, and then we can always decide what you want to do later.
Your worship, just for clarification, that $75,000 is from which area of the budget?
Signage.
Okay,
I can't say it. I need council to tell me.
So, can I just,
go ahead, Deputy Mayor Field.
so if we put it in there, are we going to ask, like, Councillor O'Hara's, that drives me crazy every time I go to the market. And literally, everybody that goes to the market sees that, everybody that comes into the community. We started to clean up that whole area. It's just, I really feel like that's one that, could we ask staff to bring back something with that?
We could add that to the motion if you want. You could put it in the working capital, but request that staff come back with a costing for that and with the balance to go into maybe sidewalks.
Yeah.
The mover and seconder, okay with that? Okay with that? She gets that, okay? I'll
Kind
wait
of.
till
Give me 1 second.
Mrs. Pearson gets that and then I'll have her read that so we're all clear.
That railroad and station,
Yeah.
Councillor O'Hara, railroad and station.
Yeah.
That was Councillor O'Hara, so I'll read the motion, Councillor O'Hara, correct if any correction needed. That the $75,000 removed for a town sign installation be allocated to working capital, and that staff return with a report on the cost to replace the roadway in front of Railroad and Station Street, with any leftover amount being transferred to the sidewalk replacement program.
Yeah, I didn't actually make the
Oh, that
motion.
was Councillor Wells.
I just
seconded.
suggested it, that's all.
Okay. Apologies.
No,
And
that's,
seconded by Councillor Hyatt.
Councillor Walsh, Councillor Hiley. Perfect.
Any discussion regarding that motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. And just before I ask for the final motion, oh, sorry.
Sorry, your worship, I just, we do have, oh, having technical difficulties for a second.
Okay, well, I'm
But
gonna,
before the final motion, we do just have a bylaw as well as the
Yeah.
motion to proceed. Thank you.
okay, we can do that now. Then let's do the bylaws. Okay, Councillor Hyatt?
and one other addition could we request. In a recent YAC committee meeting, we've identified the opportunity to have another event hosted by a YAC committee, which is a talent showcase. Request for some additional funds from the town of $3,000.
Wait, was that not in the budget already?
23 it would.
Yeah, so in budget 23, there was $3,000 from the Health and Wellness Committee, I think that they brought forward for the YAC committee. The YAC used those funds to support the YES event. This year, we would like to try and host 2 events. We have roughly $2,000 in the budget currently, but our request would be an additional $3,000 to help support the 2 events.
Well, I'll need a motion if that's what you want to.
I don't know how where that shows up in the budget,
But
because
you want to spend an additional 3,000, you want an additional $3,000 put in that budget?
please, yes.
Okay, you're moving that? I need a seconder then. Seconded by Councillor Patel. All right, so are we kind of clear on that then? In that budget, you want, this will be approving an additional $3,000. And I think I saw in your minutes about that anyway. Councillor Patel.
Just for clarification, Health and Wellness provided the new youth advisory in January, a $3,000 to go towards the summit. Last council meeting, we diverted the monies left over from the events to go into a fund that was then being presented to pay for the talent show coming up on March 1st. Now we're looking at our 2024 budget and we're a re-ask of that $3,000 budgetary money to be able to move forward with one or two events for the summit and any other event that we may use for 2024.
I'll let Mr. Shalaba speak to that, please.
Just another way to say exactly what Deb said is that the $3,000 would go towards the Youth Advisory Committee to do with whatever your committees deems fit. Yeah.
As long as there's no donations being made to
Oh,
outside organizations.
All right, I'll ask Mrs. Pearson, do you have got something there that you can read back for us, please?
Sure. So that the $3,000 be added to the Petrolia Youth Advisory Committee to host 2 annual events in 2024, the Youth Summit and a second signature event.
Any further discussion? Councillor O'Hara,
Your worship, we're increasing the budget now?
by $3,000, yes.
Well, we should have did this when we were sitting here all day.
Probably
Well,
should have when we
it's-
got to that portion, but, okay, go ahead.
Actually, I think it's in your last committee minutes, which will come to council
For
on the
approval.
11th of December.
Correct.
Yeah, it'll be done there as well if you want.
Yeah, it was already, I read it in your minutes as well, so it's just a matter of approval. Deputy Mayor Field.
It's $3,000 and we're gonna save money on insurance, so it's pretty straightforward.
All right, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. So I'll ask, we'll go to the bylaws to have the bylaw read. Sorry, we need to get a motion
Yes, please, your worship.
to approve the budget,
Thank you.
draft budget as amended. Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Deputy Mayor Field. I don't think you need to hear that read, or do you want to hear that read? Go ahead, Mrs. Pearson.
And that would be for the 2024 draft budget to proceed as has been amended today to the December 11th, 2023 public presentation.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Now we'll go on to the bylaw. I'll need a bylaw to have it, or a motion to have it read a first and second time. Moved by Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Councillor Clark. And I'll have, any discussion on the reading the bylaws a first and second time? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. And I need a motion to have the bylaws read a third time, signed, sealed, and numbered. Moved by Deputy Mayor Field, seconded by Councillor Clark. And I'll ask the clerk to read that, please.
And that is for bylaw number 54 of 2023, being a bylaw of the corporation of the town of Petrolia to confirm the resolutions and motions of the council of the town of Petrolia, which were adopted up to and including November 28th, 2023's special meeting of council, the 2024 draft budget session, be read a third time and finally passed.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. And just before we adjourn, I just want to thank council. I think it's a pretty heavy day for everyone, but we've done it. In fact, this is the best time I could ever remember. But I think it's very important, but it's a lot of work for everyone to go through. So thank you for that. I want to add Christmas in the Park is on Friday and we've got the parade on Saturday. Please come out. Star Bright's going on right now. If you haven't got tickets, please get them, or I think you'll really enjoy it. So I'll finish with that. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Deputy Mayor Field, that we adjourn this budget meeting, and I'll have Mandy read that motion, please.
Thank you. And that is for the November 28th, 2023, 2024 draft budget session special meeting of council to be adjourned.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, everyone.